Chào mừng quý vị quay trở lại với chương trình Đồng tiền thông minh trên kênh FPNC với cuộc trò chuyện cùng ông Tareq Muhmood là tổng giám đốc của Ngân hàng ANZ Việt Nam. Well, you was mentioning in the last part about the numbers of people owning the credit card is still very low, only 5%. But even the number of people who having a bank account is still low as well. We have 90 million people in Vietnam, right? As a banker, what will you do to change that?
So I've been visiting some companies recently, and one of the companies I visited had over 50,000 staff, 50,000. And out of that, only 2,000 or 3,000 received their salary through a bank. The rest received it through cash. And so they had to have a room every month where they paid cash, because people still feel more secure having cash. Okay. It's still a cash economy. I think what will change over time, especially I think as a banking consolidation, is there's only going to be a few winning banks that have a strong reputation, that's been here a long time, such as ANZ, such as one or two of the local banks, where people will really feel confident that they can still receive the salary into the bank, they can access that money through any ATM without any charges, so ANZ offers that right now, and they can also then access other products from the bank, but still feel secure, be able to sleep at night, knowing that the money is secure and safe. And I think it's a matter of time as people build up that confidence that the bank is not just there to receive the money and take it out and then come back 1 month later, receive the money and take it out. That actually with the bank you can develop a bigger relationship with that bank to support you through your various life stages. So I'm excited. I think that in the coming years, the penetration of banking services is just going to increase.
But I mean, specifically, how long do you think it takes to have like 50% of the Vietnamese population having a bank account?
I think the speed of Vietnam's growth, and even our confidence index shows this, is the rise of the middle class in Vietnam is faster than any other country in Asia. It's rapid. It's faster than Indonesia, faster than Philippines. So, and the same will happen even with the development of digital platforms compared to 20 years ago that wasn't. Any country developing 20 years ago didn't have the benefit of the digital age we live in now. Okay. So I think with digital platforms, the access to banking services will be a lot more rapid than it has been in previous years. So my expectation in the next 5 to 7 years, we're going to see a considerable increase in penetration of banking products. But a lot of the interaction will be through digital platforms rather than branches or visiting the branch.
So do you see that interest rate will be lower to boost up the Vietnamese consumption?
I think, there's a few drivers behind the interest rate. But if you look 3 years ago, 4 years ago, to borrow a property, to buy an apartment in Vietnam, you used to have to pay 18, 19% for a mortgage. But now, if you look at the interest rate now, for 9, 10, 11%, you can now borrow money to buy a property. So it's much more affordable to be able to own your own house compared to 3 years ago. So I think the interest rates, by being where they are now, makes a huge difference for access to credit. But now it's really a matter of demand for credit. What can help, what can give confidence to the Vietnamese to start buying property or buying appliances? And the ANZ Roy Morgan Consumer Confidence Index will provide that insight into seeing how do the consumer feel, even with the low interest rates. Are they still feeling confident about the future or not? And how does that change every month?
And right now, I think the personal finance management skills of the Vietnamese people are still very low, and a lot of people are not familiar yet with any personal finance skill. As a banker, do you have any plan on that?
So there's 2 points on this. It's a very important question. The first one is something that I'm worried about for the future, because I've seen it in other countries, where at the moment you're seeing many banks offering loans to Vietnamese consumers and making it very easy to borrow. My advice as a consumer is be very careful. Make sure that you have a need. Why do you need to borrow? And make sure that you can repay and you understand all the terms and conditions of whatever you're borrowing, because it's very easy to borrow, but it's much harder to repay. So it's important for us as ANZ to make sure that we're also responsible, and we make sure that our customers feel comfortable that they can repay before we lend to them. But that is something really to watch out for. And as part of that journey, on number 2 really is how can we help educate the community on the importance of having a plan with your money. And we have a program called Money Minded. Okay. And in Vietnam, we have about 300 participants that have been through the program. 200 of the staff of FPT, for example. We've also gone out to the provinces to deliver this in Long My district in Mekong Delta. And we have over 22 accredited staff in Vietnam. But it's part of an ANZ group, which is available in 20 countries, this program. And over 200,000 participants have been through it. And we do a lot of follow-up. After people go through the ANZ Money-Minded program, we actually find that they feel so much more confident with their money management skills. How can they make some savings? Even with a small salary, how can they prepare themselves for the future? And following these classes in this program, people feel 65% more confident with their life, because money plays a huge role in people's confidence. We find if people have got debt problems, or people cannot repay things, they feel their confidence is low. But when people feel in control of their finances and know what's happening tomorrow with their finances, you find that their level of confidence is significantly higher. So which is why we really focus on a very high-end quality delivery. It involves staff giving up their weekends to spend time. It's a workshop over a few days. And then after the workshop's finished, we do a lot of analysis on how do people actually feel. And over 80% of the people show better behavior with their money management after going through this workshop.
Good. A lot of people are still worried about the middle income trap. What is your thought on that?
It's a risk. It's a risk, especially when you see the growth rate has dropped down to 5.5% from 7 or 8. And I think that's a risk for the Vietnamese market, especially if it's purely dependent on the export markets. Because basically it means that Vietnam is really serving as a manufacturing hub for the consumers in other countries. I think what's to make sure that that doesn't happen in Vietnam is to encourage the rise of the Vietnamese as consumers. And that will support the overall development of the market. It supports infrastructure development, and supports lifestyle development. And I think that will be a key driver, which is why for ANZ we really focus on the rise of the Vietnamese consumer and see what we can do to play a part in making sure that it's a sustainable rise.
How do you forecast the growth of the banking industry in 3 to 5 years in Vietnam?
It's going to be a mixed bag, is our view, and my personal view would be that there's going to clearly be some winners, and ANZ will be one of those.
Yeah.
And there'll be clearly some that will either have to consolidate or merge or even close down, but in an orderly manner. I think the way the State Bank is coordinating this is to make sure that there's stability and that any changes that are done are planned with no major surprises. So I think there will be a consolidation amongst the banks. I think for a bank to be successful, they need to have a very clear strategy on what clients they can make a difference to. But it's clearly going to consolidate. The number of players, banks in Vietnam is considerably larger than the number of banks in many other markets for the same population.
Specifically, what do you do to prepare for the digital technologies and digital developments of the consumer behavior?
I think you can easily get lost in trying to come up with a big plan for digital.
Yeah.
And it can take then forever. So what we do, though, is actually just look at the small different initiatives and do a lot of customer research to see what really makes a difference to our customers. So, for example, our customers said they like to receive an SMS every day to tell them what their bank balance is. So those kind of techniques work well. Not all customers want to access the bank on the phone. Not all customers want to sit down at their desk and access it. So you have to have tools that suit different types of customers. And some customers prefer to speak to somebody on the phone. And then you'll have other customers that still love to visit the branch and sit in a nice, beautiful branch with a nice member of staff to talk to. So what we find is that there isn't one model that's going to be suitable for the Vietnamese consumer. And we have to provide all these different channels with consistency to make sure that it caters for our customers' needs.
So what is your plans in terms of expanding to other parts of the country?
So it's a great question. It's something we're analyzing very closely. At the moment, we do have a very strong presence in Hanoi, a very strong presence in Ho Chi Minh. We opened an office in Can Tho about 2 years ago. And last year, we opened our first office in Bin Xuân. And so now we're looking at other ideas. And, of course, it'll be the major cities that we'll look at, whether it's in Hai Phong, in Da Nang, or in Dong Nai, or possibly Vung Tau. And we're studying those different locations right now. But to be honest with you, the cities of Hanoi and Ho Chi Minh are just so large, and there's still so much work that you can do focusing on these two cities. I want to make sure we don't take our eye off the ball by trying to think too big while not getting our present locations really working well.
Okay. So the ANZ Roy Morgan Vietnam's Consumer Confidence Index is now officially available. Could you kind of quickly summarize what is some of the strong benefits of this index that the businesses should take into consideration?
Well, let me give you a few key points of the first announcement of what the index has shown. So what it's shown is in the first 5 months of 2014, from January to May, the actual confidence levels were actually declining of the Vietnamese consumer. So questions like, do they plan to buy a new motorbike? Or do they plan to buy a new car? Or do they plan to buy a new fridge for the house? And how confident do they feel over the next 12 months? The actual level of confidence was falling down for 5 months. But in June, we saw a rapid pickup in confidence. So whether that marks a turning corner for the Vietnamese consumer, or does it mark just a bump and then there'll be a more decline, that's something that will be fascinating to see in the next few months. So already the feedback that we had from many of our retail-based businesses is, wow, this is great insight, and it will help them plan for the months ahead, and then looking at 2015 as they start developing their plans for 2015.
Thank you for sharing. Great. Thưa quý vị, vừa rồi là những chia sẻ của ông Tareq Muhmood, là Tổng giám đốc của Ngân hàng ANZ Việt Nam, về chỉ số niềm tin người tiêu dùng ANZ Roy Morgan Việt Nam Consumer Confidence Index vừa được công bố vào ngày 11 tháng 7 vừa qua. Quý vị có thể xem lại chương trình trên trang web fpnc.vn hoặc là trang facebook.com/đồng tiền thông minh. Thân ái chào tạm biệt, và chúng tôi sẽ còn quay trở lại với những nội dung đáng chú ý khác.